Okay, so let's make a drawing for this part. I'm going to start by going to File, Open, and bring in our title block. So generally a title block is going to be specific to the organization that you work for. What I want to do first is go ahead and save a copy. And I like to make sure that I save it with the part name being the same, just so that I can locate it and make sure I know which part it goes with information. So let's set up the title block information first so that we know how to do that. Let's go under Edit, Sheet Background, and that's going to convert us into the what's in the background, where we can actually change all of those text boxes into information that is relevant to us. We want to set our scale. And then under Drawn By, I'm going to make sure I put my name. And then under Modeled By is whoever created the part that's associated with the drawing, which is generally going to be the same person, but not always. The Approved By is generally going to be your supervisor or the professional engineer on site. Remember, we do want to do all uppercase lettering to match with our ANSI standard. And now we can go back under Edit and flip it to Working Views. Using our front view icon over here at the top right hand corner of our toolbars. So the first one there is going to be a blue 3D object that converts into a 2D object that's yellow. And that's your front view, and you're going to select it from the part itself. We're going to go over to the Window menu, flip back over to our part, and select our front view. Now I had it in isometric view, so it has to go through orienting it into front view. If you pick the wrong view for some reason, you have a compass at the top that you can use to rotate your object or flip it up and down. There is a rotational aspect as well, but that is the front view that I would like. So I'm going to go ahead and click off to the side to deselect it so that it converts it down into a 2D object. I'm going to place it to the left hand corner so that I have a little bit more room for my side view and top view and then isometric view. A couple of things here that I don't need. My reference to the origin is pretty arbitrary, so unless there's a reason that you need that, I generally go through and hide it by right clicking and selecting Hide Show. And then you don't need the label for your front view or the scale, as long as your scale matches what's in your drawing. Now the only reason that you would need to show your view is if it's a specialty one, like a section view or a crop view. Now notice there's a red viewing pane that is around my object, and that shows that this is the active sketch. Now you do have to have the sketch active when you go to do a projection from it. So when I select into my Use toolbar, I can select projection, and it will allow me to slide it, and it should show up directly above. And again, click to place, and it'll convert it into a 2D object. I'm going to select my front view and do a projection. Click to place and convert it into the 2D object. I'm going to get rid of those and add my isometric view. So again, just like with the front view, your isometric view, you do have to rotate into your part file to select it directly. Now I do want to make sure that it is in isometric view when I click on it, because this one doesn't rotate it for you. So down at the bottom in my views toolbar, I want to make sure to select isometric view and then click on my part. I'm going to click to place it. and then slide it over into but remember that our isometric view can actually be half the scale of our other orthographic views. So I'm going to change the scale of just that view. So over on the left hand side in our feature tree, I can select my isometric view, right click, go to properties, and I can change that scale to 1/2. Now for the isometric view, we do not include any dress up feature, just getting that scale. Now for our other 3 views, it is imperative that we go through and add things like our center lines and hidden lines. So I'm going to hit Control to select all 3 views. Alternatively, you could select them in the feature tree over on the left. Go to Properties, and we're going to use hidden lines, center lines. I would turn axes on, but there are no axes, but we can go ahead and turn them on. And then turn off fillet. All right, so from there, all we need to do is add our dimensions, which we can do manually, but there is a shortcut here, generate dimensions automatically tool. If I click on that, it'll bring in all of the elements that we generated initially from our part. It's not necessarily going to be the exact placement of the dimensions that we want, but it gets us started. And if we want to change it, we can always go through and change them manually. We do want to make sure that we ensure clarity of our dimensions. We do not want to place our dimensions on top of our part whenever possible. So we want to make sure that we can pull those items off to the side. We also want to eliminate redundant dimensions. So things like these 2 circles have the same dimension. So instead we can just delete one of them. And then by default, this diameter dimension comes in with 2 arrows, but really it should just have the 1. So we're going to click on it and go to Properties and turn off the second symbol. It's under Dimension Lines. And then for clarity's sake, we can go through and add a text box to show that this is actually 2 circles of the same diameter. Same thing with the radius. All right, I'm going to place this feature on the left. Now notice the units, not in millimeters like we would expect. So I'm going to select everything and go up to this menu drop-down box. And the options that we have are going to be millimeters or inch. So let's go ahead and I'm going to save this and then immediately save as PDF. You need to give this to your boss or a client. It's going to be a lot easier to send them a PDF than it is to send them a drawing file, even if they have CATIA, because if you have the drawing, you have to send them the part as well. Otherwise, it's going to open and it's just going to show those viewing panes, not the part inside of it if you don't have that information. Notice that you don't see the viewing panes on the PDF. It looks a lot cleaner. So, hope you enjoyed this tutorial.